Good day, students, scholars, and curious viewers. This is Mr. SKT, or otherwise known as the Super Karoshi teacher. In this video, we're going to be continuing the laws of exponents, looking at the fourth law, being the power of exponent of 0. Simply put, anything raised to the power of 0 will give you an answer of 1. X to the power of 0 can simply be written as x to the 1. However, there is an important note I added here. This does not work for x equals 0. In other words, you cannot have 0 to the power of 0 equaling 1. It does not work, because 0 to the power of anything gives you 0, but anything to the power of 0 equals 1. So you notice there's a clash of laws. Hence, if you typed in 0 to the power of 0 in your calculator, it will give you either a math error or undefined. But every other situation, anything raised to the power of 0 simplifies that thing into 1. Although there are different circumstances. So let's look at some different examples and perhaps different circumstances of how this works. So here I got a number 2 being raised to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 0, anything to the power of 0 turns into 1. Even another variable. I used A this time. Whether it's B, C, S, you get the point. Any variable raised to the power of 0 also gives you 1. Now some of you might be asking, how is that possible? How is that a thing? Well, here's how it actually works. So let's say I did, for example, x to the power of 2 divided by x to the power of 2. So here we apply the second law of exponents, division. If they are the same base, you can minus the exponents. So this one will give you x to the power of 2 minus 2, which gives you x to the power of 0. However, what you also know from your knowledge of mathematics, if you have anything dividing it by itself, so that same 2x to the 2 divided by that same x to the 2, the answer is always 1. Whether it be 1 divided by 1 gives you 1, 2 divided by 2 gives you 1, 5 divided by 5 gives you 1, x divided by x gives you 1. So x squared divided by x squared will also give you 1. But that's also equal to x to the power of 0. So which means that this is the proof that anything to the power of 0 equals 1. Now that we have that out of the way, let's continue with some more examples or more situations. Here I've got a situation of 2x in a bracket all raised to the power of 0. The answer to that is 1. All of it. Some of you may be asking, how is this the case? Why? Well, let's look back to our law number 3. If you remember law 3, which we did not long ago, if you have something raised by an exponent or power raised by exponent, you multiply. So, and that situation occurs also with the numbers. So if I have 2x to the power of 0, then that 0 goes to both the 2 and the x, turning it into 2 to the power of 0 times x to the power of 0. 2 to the power of 0 is 1. X to the power of 0 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. And that's why something like that works. But what if you had, let's remove the brackets and just have 2x to the power of 0 with only the x having the power of 0. Then, in this situation, the answer is 2. Why, sir? Why? Here's why. only that x has a power of 0, which means only that x turns into 1. The 2 is left as it is. So in the end, you would end up with 2 times 1, which gives you 2. So this situation forces you to look out for what is actually being raised to the 0 before you give the final answer, or before you say it just all equals 1. Another thing that tends to catch people out is this situation. Negative a to the power of 0. At first you may think the answer is 1 because anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. However, the answer to that is actually negative 1. And the reason being is because that minus sign doesn't officially belong to the a. That minus sign is basically minus 1 times that a to the 0. So the a to the 0 turns into a 1 with the minus sign then multiplying afterwards. If you want a little further demonstration, we can do a little interactive exercise. In this interactive exercise, if you have a scientific calculator with you, all the better. I want you to input these two things into your scientific calculator. You can pause the video at this point in order to do so. So you have negative 3 in a bracket. In fact, it doesn't even have to be negative 3. It can be any number you choose. As long as just for the sake of consistency, make sure it's the same number. But negative 3 in a bracket being raised to the 0 will return you an answer of 1. But negative 3 with no bracket will return you an answer of minus 1, because only that 3 is being subjected to the 0. The negative sign will multiply afterwards. It's kind of like the situation from the third law of exponents, where we had something being multiplied into something that's already been hit with an exponent. You do the exponent first with the multiplication afterwards. With that being said, here we have our rudimentary exercise. So this exercise, if you wish to do this one by yourself, by the way, as you can see, the instruction is to simplify. I know that last one looks a bit involved, but trust me, it's not as hard as it looks. If you wish to attempt this by yourself, you can pause the video in 3, 2, 1. Right, now time for the correction. So the first one, we had s to the 0, which just simply equals 1. That's it. That's all you have to do. The second one, we have x to the 0 plus y to the 0. X to the 0 is 1. Y to the 0 is 1. 1 plus 1, the answer is 2. 5 times x being raised to the 0. BoardMass will tell you to do the exponent first, so that x to the 0 becomes 1. And then afterwards you can do your multiplication. 5 times 1, giving you an answer of 5. 2x in a bracket being raised to the 0 times y on the other side. All this in the bracket is being raised to the power 0. Therefore, all that in the bracket gets turned into a 1, with the y being multiplied afterwards. So your final answer, 1 times y, is just simply y. Number 5. Number 5, we have negative x to the 0, no brackets, plus 3 to the 0, plus 3x to the 0 with no brackets. Negative x to the 0, only this part gets turned into a 1. So that becomes negative 1 on the first pass. The second term, 3 to the 0 gets turned into a 1. And then the 3x to the 0, only this gets turned into a 1. And thus it becomes 3 times 1, which is 3. So you would end up with negative 1 plus 1 plus 3, giving you a final answer of 3. And then number 6, the really involved one, x to the 2, raised to the 3, raised to the 4, raised to the 5, raised to the 6, all finally being raised to the 0. Law 3 tells you that when you are raising something by an exponent, you multiply all the exponents. So effectively, it's going to be x to the 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 0. And if you remember your basic identities with mathematics, anything times 0 is 0. So which means, all in all, it becomes x to the 0, leaving you with a final answer of 1. If you like this comment, please leave a like. It increases the chance of trending. Share and subscribe increases the chances of monetization. And please comment on anything you want to see in the future. With that being said, have a nice day.